he doesn't use that much water. He's on limited income. And they found out that in January they were gone for a week, and when they came home, somebody had turned on his outside hose bib. So it had run for I don't know how many days before he got here. He had no control over being able to turn it off. So he is asking if there was something the commission could do on relieving some of the cost to him since he's on limited income, and that would take him about 2.5 or 3 years to pay that back. It was split up over time.
What's the policy on that? There was one before.
Well, the policy is that if there's a leak or something like that is done and it's reported, to the city, when the city reports it, they normally give them a 3-month payment plan, so that bill would be paid off before the next bill. And as Roger said, because he'd asked me about that, and we do show that because the new software lets us know exactly when water use is on, when it peaked, and it was on the 21st, and then shut off on the 26th. The only concern I have is we get a lot of these calls. So if we do one, I think you're going to have to open yourself up to the fact that you're going to be in the business of deciding whose water bill you're going to adjust and whose water bill you're not. That's my concern. Because we get a lot of calls, there are a lot of reasons why they can't pay or don't claim the usage is right and what have you. And I know we're going through a period with the new meters, and some people are saying a higher bill and a lower bill because we have the dates adjusted. This next bill should be on a regular cycle. A lot of people, about 500 people in this community, have what was called a dead meter. They have not been reading their water usage for years. These folks were getting like an $88 bill. So they're now getting a bill that may be $120. And they're saying, oh, my bill went up. And no, your bill will go up. You're just now being billed for what you were actually using. So you've got the benefit of all those previous. So what I'm getting at is this is one case, maybe he was gone and somehow the water got turned on, but we get numbers of these. And so if you're going to set something, I'd almost rather it be a policy. Because individually, then we're going to end up telling people, you're going to have to end up coming back. Do you want to be refereeing utility bills?
Scott, what was the policy on the water well that we had? There was a loan that we took out that required us to not give away water. That's a statement.
And usually your loan documents, when you pledge your water revenue as collateral for your loan, there will be a document, a provision that you cannot give away free service.
Come up here to the podium and talk about your issue now.
I didn't know it was here. I was at the city hall. I texted you.
Is that button green up there?
No. Okay. Before you start,
There is provisions in there about not giving free water and free service away when you pledge your revenue as collateral for repayment.
are we beyond that? Because that was something that
I don't know in terms of is the loan paid off? I don't know.
yeah, it was a provision in the loan that because of the conditions there, and it had come up many times prior to even the water meters being replaced, that people had issues with their water bill, and we were told that give away the water. I think that was when we made a provision to have it spaced over a period of time. But that's just history, I guess.
Well, this is Sam, the one we're talking about, so he wants to introduce himself.
Sam, would you please just give us your name and your address?
Yeah, Sam Paulson. I live on 819 Macy Avenue, Beverly, California. I was quite shocked to get a huge water bill, 50-some thousand gallons. We normally, you could look back 5 to 10 years. Our usage is around 2,000 or a little under 2,000 a month. I talked to my commissioner about it, and we looked into it and said, well, that's what it was. And then they sent me an email that, for the city administrator, sent an email that they identified that the leak, there was a major leak, happened between 1/19/25 and 1/26/25. And that explains a lot, because at 1/19, we were out of town on a camping trip. From 1/19/26. I'm sorry, what he said actually was, I'm misquoting him.
We said earlier that the computer registered it flowing on the 21st and turned it
Yeah,
off.
okay, there it is. I was reading my response to you, right? He said the spike in usage that started January 21. And we were out of town, we came on a camping trip. Here's a receipt. I sent, here's a reservation. Here is Susanna stop or mail payment at the post office, a copy of this. Then you all want, is it a good service? So anyway, we were here, and that's why I was so confused about a leak, because there was no leak. When I bought that house 15 years ago, my brand new plumbing up to the entrance, and I put in a filter system. I separated it for post beds, and there was no leak. That's why I was baffled. And I thought that, I know the town had put new meters in, and I thought, well, it has to be a changeover at Reed or something, because we did not use that water. Now, I can only speculate what happened. There has been vandalism at my property. I have been kind of outspoken politically, and some people don't agree with my thoughts and things, but I'm not going to point any fingers. I have no proof. But I do have proof that we weren't there when that hose bib was turned on. When we got back, my wife found a hose bib that was turned on in the side yard, not by the driveway that we normally use, but a hose bib we rarely use, and that anybody going by wouldn't hear it. Roger would have seen it if it was a hose bib in the driveway. We weren't there. We didn't use the water.
Just before you came in, our city administrator, would you repeat what you said earlier about, once these meters have been replaced, that they were pretty optimally working, and a lot of people probably going to have the same situation you are. Would you repeat that?
Well, they use the word leak, meaning all we knew is that there was usage. I mean, so sometimes that indicates a leak, especially if the person's not running water. So being a leak or not, as he said, the bid was on, so that water was used. The city normally offers a 3-month payment plan. If it was been a repair, they could even produce a copy of the bill, and I think that helps with the justification in reference to the adjustment. But we don't have a mechanism to just waive that usage under any circumstances.
Is there a way that instead of just limiting it to a 3-month payback, as he is on a limited income, that it can be spread out further to maybe 6 or 12 payments until he gets it paid back?
Exactly, just take a policy change.
That'd be a policy change, or can it be that one case incident?
I don't have Aaron here, so I don't know. I just asked when this happened, and I said, how do we deal with it? And I was told that we give people the time within, to pay it off within one bill before the next bill. So the thing is that it should be paid off before the next quarter, so that was a payment period.
Well, as normal uses, you would have no problem, and this one, which puts a pretty big impact on his income, would need to be spread out further because he wouldn't be able to even do that for a month.
The only thing I'll say is if the commission is going to entertain anything, whether it's a longer payback period or whatever, because he does have some unique facts here. It does seem to indicate that maybe somebody was on the property and vandalism. I think it'd be good for him to file a police report. split incident. So we have something unique here that supports it. He has a police report. I don't know if the police are going to investigate it, or you know, where it's actually going to go. But at least he has a police report that somebody vandalized his house. And that may give you the justification, if you're interested in providing relief, that may separate it from some other situation. But that would be my own thoughts. Usually where you see the relief being given is when the issue is the city's meter, the city side of the meter. You know, it's our meter or our side of the high usage. Then there's also, and it's not relevant here, but some cities will do is they'll give relief on the sewer side because the sewer bills are usually based on the water bill. But when you have a leak, the water doesn't go back to the sewer system. So they'll give relief on the sewer bill. But, you know, and Jim's right, you gotta be careful not to open up, you know, if you use the word floodgates, but you don't wanna have a situation where everybody, when their bill is higher than normal, comes in and asks for relief. But I think a police report regarding vandalism, trespass, might help you differentiate that from a normal request.
What is your bill for this? What's the amount of the bill?
$463. See, the thing is, I can prove we weren't there. We did not use it. If there was a leak, and that was my responsibility, it's my property, I would take the responsibility, and I would pay it. However, I would have to work out a deal, but I would pay it. I don't feel this is my responsibility. I feel I'm the victim of vandalism here. And
While we're working out, can you file a police report? And maybe come into the office with the administrator and figure out a payment schedule while we're trying to figure out what to do with these issues as they're coming up, and see what you can afford to pay it back. I know a 3-month payment thing, that'd be about what, 75, 100 something, 125 a month, plus your regular water bill.
I don't know. 6,000 gallons.
3 into 463.
How much is your normal water bill?
I didn't write that down that way. There's eight. It would be, I don't know, $80.
Well, it might be a little bit higher now, I've got the new meters, because mine went from 88 up to, I think it's 110.
And that brings up a good point. You may want to not base his average usage based on old water bills or old water meter, but now on a new water meter, see what his average usage is. And then you would be comparing apples and apples.
Well, how about we go back 10 years?
We got a new meter, is what we're saying. There's a new meter in, and the new meters are accurate, and some people's meters weren't reading accurately, so they were getting free water all along, or reduced rate water. So everybody's now got these new meters, and a lot of people are going to be paying more. And it's not that the rate went up, it's just the meter now is accurately recording how much you're using. And so we can now accurately see how much you're using, and then compare that to this one bill in question, and so we have a better average. I guess this bill is under the meter.
This correct.
Yeah, so I would get an average of the, maybe 2 months or something like that under the new meter with normal usage and see what it is.
So would we be able to defer this until he came up with that meter? In other words, this particular bill will be deferred until we came up with a point of reference? Because right now, we don't have a point of reference in terms of, we just
It's all
know.
historic under the old meter.
Right. So,
If that's what the commission's wishes are, then let's get us some new data on usage, allow them to file a police report, and then he can meet with staff and then it can be brought back to you.
I know it's a lot of work on your part, but
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't have a problem with that everybody coming, that I'm kind of thrown into a category that everybody was behind one of those would come in here.
Well, I mean, this
Unique
is,
circumstance.
well, this is what
One
you,
time.
this is what you need to understand, is from the meter to your house, that's your responsibility. It doesn't matter how the water gets used. Vandalism, water break, from the meter to your house is your responsibility. And if there's a problem with the meter, that's technically the city's responsibility. I'm trying to give the commission some wiggle room here, if they want it, to say, hey, someone vandalized you, file a police report, so it's on file. Let's see what the accuracy of the meter is on a couple readings, and then we can sit down and see how much water in excess you really use. And then that's, because the hardline approach is, that's from the meter to your house is you. Right, regardless of what it is.
And I acknowledge.
Mr. Simpson, so in the time that we're going to be looking at this, will he be okay if he pays what his normal bill has typically been?
I would defer to Jim on that. I mean, it's an administrative question.
We got.
That's why I asked if he could come in and talk to
We got what
him.
he paid last bill. It was $113.50 was his last bill.
The one after this, the
No,
The one
the last
prior
one, which would have been the
to
first
this.
one with the new meters.
113.
So then it probably wasn't.
Lynn, going to your question, because of the fact that the commission wants some data and what have you, we can work around the due date, the cutoff date, and make sure those things.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get cut off, there's no late fees.
Okay,
You know,
that's what,
just
that
come up
was
with
my
a
concern.
payment.
Well, yeah, while we're getting that information,
Okay, that was my concern.
yeah, we can do that.
So we're working with you. That's the best we can do.
Come into the office tomorrow, we'll work on it some more.
Thank you for consideration.
Sure.
Thank you for coming. Okay, are there any more public comments? Public forum? Nancy?
Hi, Nancy Weary, 435 West Delaware. Just wanted to remind everybody that next weekend is Easter weekend, and it is the 7th annual Crosses for Christ Lake Helen. And we have a lot of crosses going across the city and a lot of great sponsors, new and returning, and we hope to have everybody come out. You can get your map online from our Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At that point, any more public comments? All right, then we're closed, and we'll begin our presentations to the commission. First presentation was the update of the stormwater within current.
Good evening, Commission. Ryan Watson with Recurrent. Just wanted to provide you guys a fairly quick update on where we are with the stormwater facility plan we're currently working on for the city. The plan is essentially broken up into 3 phases. The first phase would be field collection. We go around and collect what assets we have out in the current city right now. Phase 2 is going to be modeling. As of the middle of March, we completed the modeling phase of this, which is what you guys have in front of you. It's broken down into 3 different categories. So the first category of the modeling is going to be what we consider a 10-year near future event. So 10-year near future, rather than looking at the actual 10-year or the near future category of it, we generally recommend that you look at the actual rainfall calculations based on that model. And so as you can see in the bottom left corner of that diagram that you have, this is going to be based off of 6.25 inches in 24 hours. It's going to be a 10-year event. The next page is going to be a 25 near future event. That's going to be 8.23 inches in 24 hours. And then the final page in that document, which is going to be the closest representation of the event that you face during a mill, is going to be 15.39 inches in 24 hours. And based off of that modeling now is where we move it into project identification phase. And so, yeah, sure.
Is there a button on it?
It's on.
It's on.
It is. Can you guys hear me better now?
No.
We need to be facing all of them.
Just project your voice.
Absolutely. And so now we're moving into where we're going to start identifying projects based off of this modeling, and then working through different conveyance options to identify 3 different options for each specific project that's identified. Those 3 options are what we discussed about in previous council meetings, where we do that in a format to go after SRF funding specifically. And we are still on pace for this project to be completed by the middle of June as we originally predicted.
This year?
Yes. So we originally said it was going to be in our scope, that it was going to be an 8-month project as far as the plan goes, and so we should have it completed by June, something like that. The other piece of it too that is not, it's related to stormwater overall, but it's not specifically related to the facility plan, is that we have identified what's considered supplemental appropriation funding for Milton Marine. It's just got passed down. It's a federal program. It's passed down to DEP and administered through SRF. The program has $1.6 billion in it in relation to relief and damaged communities. We expect that to be an SRF hearing either in May or August, so it's still TBD on which one to fall under. We're currently working on the RFI for the city, but we have identified between drinking water and stormwater nearly $35 million that we want to apply for. $20 million in stormwater and $15 million in drinking water.
Yeah. For me personally, what you're actually doing is to modeling out what a event, 3 different events, of what would be the water be collected and where it would be moving to, and the highest model that you're giving us is as close as you can get to Milton. Milton was how many inches?
I believe it was nearly 18 inches in 24 hours.
18 inches in 24 hours. And so we are, now what does the modeling do? Will the modeling show where we can maybe possibly have a water retention pond or water flows?
It does. So the modeling allows us a foundation to then go in and put in design parameters and to then show where we can convey the water to and what impacts it has when we convey it to certain areas. So we'll put in different design parameters around retention areas. We'll put different design parameters around pumping options, and it shows us, and there's more into it than just the modeling aspect of it, because we also have to understand where can we move the water to, what will be allowed, can we move it into a basin in the community, can we move it into a preserve, and so all that will be taken into consideration as we build out what the options are for, what we can do for future projects.
Are we maxed out in terms of where we can pour water into our lakes?
I wouldn't say it's maxed out, but it's a little too soon to identify where water can be moved to and what the impact is going to have, because you do have certain lakes that I would say are not necessarily maxed out. But until we actually convey that water through more modeling, we won't necessarily have an idea on what that impact looks like when we move the water in that direction.
Right, on that, I know that there's the Florida DEP that you all are working with on $175,000 facility resiliency plan.
Yes.
And you helped us with the transform 386, $200,000
Yes.
from the county. Now, well, you all aren't doing that, but they've got their engineers aside, and they're doing some models and some stormwater on that.
Correct, and they've opened up round 2 as far as transform 386 goes as well, so we're hoping to leverage that with specific projects that were identified in your old master plan as well. So we're trying to tap every resource that we can for funding projects after they get obviously planned and then move through design. So the supplemental appropriation we think is going to be your best bet at funding a good chunk of these. During Hurricane Ian supplemental appropriation, we're working with 5 communities, identifying 12 projects for those 5 communities, and we're able to secure roughly $165 million in funding through this program. So it's normally That program had about $500 million in it. This one has $1.6 billion. It should be a little bit more competitive in this program is what we're thinking. But we still think that, based on what the city is seeing from an impact perspective with Milton, that we should qualify for, generally the criteria.
Brian, which program are you talking about? Florida Elevate? You keep saying program.
No, it's a supplemental appropriation for Milton, Helene, and Hawaii wildfires. I think it's SAWI, I think is what they refer to as an abbreviation. But it's a federal program where money is passed down to DEP and administered through SRF. And so during Hurricane Ian and Fiona, it was called SAWI is what it was referred to as. But it's 100% grant money. It's passed down due to disaster relief appropriation money. And, it's meant for specific situations like what you guys face here.
Have you considered Florida Elevate? That's just come into effect in February. I don't know if you're aware of it.
I am to some degree, but from what I understand about Elevate Florida, that it's more specific to homeowners, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I can address that because we have meetings with the county. Elevate Florida has to be initiated by the homeowner, not the city. They're the ones who have to apply, and Elevate Florida will, if you qualify, will allow up to $75,000 or 75% of either purchase of the property or Elevate. So Elevate also has acquiring property, so that's within that program. The problem for Lake Helen is that it's means tested in reference to income. So some of the properties that were affected here in Lake Helen may not qualify based on the incomes of the individual. So it is a program that is geared at low income individuals because it comes from HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. And so that application is open for people. And I've sent that information out to a couple of homeowners that were here in Lake Helen to make sure to at least get themselves registered and into that. Now, where it gets complicated is if they get eligible and it gets passed through another level, then at some point they'll come back and either they've got to come up with 25% or to find somebody else who would, which that's where some people will either turn nonprofits or the local organization. And that may be a decision if they qualify and get to that level, decide on what role that is. And if it worked that way, then the city would end up owning the property. A home would be taken down and forever, nothing could ever be built back on that piece. But that is a program that has to be initiated by the county.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad that you're here tonight because I've been wondering, sorry guys, I've got a low voice. I see that we've paid your company up to about 75% of what we had planned to pay, is that correct?
Depends, because the payments are different areas. What they mostly have been paid for was the copper and lead line, of which we also got $200,000 SRF from the state. So you'll see the invoice out, but you don't see the compensation side of that. So most of their payment had to do with the copper and lead line survey that was done during the water meter replacement. There have been some other invoices that have come in relating to the stormwater, so it kind of break down on specifically what bill that is. But some of that, while we're paying it out, is being offset by the SRF $150,000 that came in terms of that.
Is there any way that the commission can get information on like what's happening here? Because I'm a little behind on what's happening, because when I look at the budget, I see 75% based on what we had budgeted and what's been used. And I'm assuming these models that you gave us, that was paid out of part of that 75%. But have we actually, it doesn't sound to me, but correct me if I'm wrong, have we actually identified areas that work needs to be done in and done quickly? Are you going to start contracting with people to come in to start doing work for repairs and prepare for the next season, which is right upon us.
Yeah, that's the work.
Yeah, in regards to that, so areas have been identified. As far as planning projects to see where that movement of water takes place, that is a work in progress, which is supposed to be completed June 15th, or middle of June. As far as contracting to then go and do work on those projects still have to move through design once they're identified. And as of right now, would need to be funded as well. And so that's kind of, I guess you could say, step 2 in the process. Is this, you're in the planning phase right now. Once the projects are identified, we work to get them funded. And then once they're funded, we move them through design and eventually construction. So
How long do you think it would take to get them through design? If we're looking at June, July, August.
it depends on what the project is specifically, but for it to be designed by, I would say July or August, I would probably say it's not achievable,
So, again, correct me if I'm wrong. We may not have a project even started until we're in mid-hurricane season or after the next hurricane season.
potentially, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. I have really grave concerns. And I'm gonna tell you why. I rode around the city, especially in one area where a ditch had been dug out and a culvert had been put in. And the culvert's covered in water. I guess it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but I'm not quite sure when I see the culverts. And fish are swimming all over the top of the culvert. I have grave concerns because we had a fast storm that come through a couple of days ago. The water rose, and it's a bad situation for the property owner. And then we've got at least 10 other property owners that are in the same situation. So it looks to me, Brian, like we're not even probably going to start a project until after the next hurricane season is over.
I would say not until the next hurricane season's over, but once they're identified, we'll have a much better idea on what the timeline would look like for design and construction on it. But once again, I think one of the limitations, that we need to look at too is that they will need to be funded as well. And so we can't fund them until the planning is completed on them. And we can't pay for design, we can't pay for construction until we secure funding for them, so.
Has our master plan helped at all in you doing your plan?
It has, but the master plan for the problem areas that you face during Milton, it didn't identify any solutions to those problem areas. And so the facility plan that we're going to be building off of is going to address the problem areas that you saw during Milton, which is based on the plot that we see on the last page. But the master plan previously didn't have any projects that we deemed would facilitate any movement of water in the problem areas or anything.
Well, somewhere we do have projects.
You do?
4 projects.
You do,
And
yeah.
I had asked to look at those projects. Some were 80% completed, some were maybe 40% completed. I didn't get far enough to get so I know that some projects have been started, just not all of them completed. And in my mind, I was thinking if you had the model of the master plan, that we could be looking at, all right, we've got one project, 75% complete. Is it workable or doable? And can we start working at least on something to get it completed?
Jim, did you have any projects based on that master plan that were in design? I didn't believe they were, right?
They were just concepts.
Yeah, so they were through
They
planning.
engineered it out to ready to go, they were
But
just
they-
concept.
Yeah, there was no design work completed on it, so they would still have to go through design and then they would have to go through construction as well.
Well, it
And
said project like on one of them completed, so I don't know what the terminology is.
Yeah,
It's
the-
design, this project completed, not design or anything like that.
yeah, there's
So-
generally 3 steps in a construction project, so planning would be the first step, which is essentially identifying the project. The second step is designing that project once it's identified, and then the third step is construction of that project. And so the master plan documents have been through the planning phase, step one, but those projects that were identified in the master planning didn't identify any of your problem areas that were, they didn't identify any of the problem areas that we saw during the, unfortunately.
So we're really not much further ahead.
We're much further than we were back in November, but as far as, you know,
Well, we
steps in
gotta
the
wait.
progress, we still have a decent amount of ways in progress as well, so.
That's all I have, thank you.
I could add too, for the commission, this is an email I got from Morgan French, who works with Ryan. She was updating me on the work they're doing for us in Tallahassee. We're one of the few cities that some of our requests have made it through committee. The House has us in, not a lot of money, but $112,500. And the Senate has us in for $225,000 on stormwater. So the two of the House and Senate will have to get reconciliation to decide what that number is. We'll talk about the City Hall later, but I'm going to have that in there. But that's also gone through for budget recommendation. The House had us at $187,500, and the Senate had us for $375,000. We're one of the few cities that both the House and the Senate portion of their projects could at least make to the point of reconciliation.
Are those the fundings that you put through with Senator White and with Representative Barnaby?
Yes, these are the Florida ones, these aren't federal.
But they were for studies and planning, correct? The way they were written.
But then it goes through City Hall then for stormwater works.
Not studies and planning. Because it says studies and planning, so.
And I did get an email from Congressman Mills' office, I think it was a week and a half ago, and they had just opened up their portal and got that on to Morgan with his office, and so they're looking at doing that. But even if it comes out of the House, we got to remember Lake Helen was awarded, what, $800,000 a couple of years ago, and then the governor vetoed it. So, I mean, getting it through the House and the Senate doesn't necessarily win, it's what the governor does at the end of the day. With the climate in Tallahassee and Washington with the cuts and going on, you know, we have to hold our breath, but the fact that we've made it as far as we have and some others didn't, you know, I think
Well,
it's
the governor actually cut everybody, wasn't just.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It was across.
But ours was specific, and they said we'd have no skin.
I met with Barnaby on Tuesday, and he did say that there are those things that are in the House that are moving forward. We also met with Senator Lee and Senator Wright. The benefit of getting before these particular senators is that you have their aides that we can continue to dialogue with, because the aides are really the ones that's moving things around. So we did have some, I think, some very positive conversations with them, and hopefully we'll continue those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, the supplemental appropriation funding that's coming out, you know, in regards to planning, you traditionally, if you're awarded funding through the program, you have to do a facility plan in relation to it in the same format that we're doing your current facility plan. So hopefully, when that funding is released, it's generally released pretty quick, and you guys will be ahead of the curve in regards to implementing that funding through design and then into construction. So, you know, we're on pace with it. We're doing everything that we can to keep on pace with, you know, what we promised to deliver you back in November. And then we'll keep to try to track forward as fast as possible for you once those projects are identified and try to find funding and then equally get through design and construction. So we definitely understand the urgency from the community. You know,
But that's
we're trying.
that's my concern.
Yeah.
I know you came in after the fact, you know, this thing's been worked on, and it's been chewed up and spit out and worked on again, but it's time now. You know,
Yeah.
when you walk around and you see people's homes, their yards are flooded. Even if there's no rain, they can't walk in their backyards because it's a mud hole. It's just, the groundwater's so high. and they cannot continue to live like this. And like I said, I understand you came in kind of on the tail end of it and started reworking things. But we're at a point now that we've got to move, and it's urgent. And I'm sure we're not your only clients, but I wish we were.
Well, and once again, we completely understand, but we also have to make sure that the work that we turn over to you guys is correct as well. And so we're doing everything we can to fast track it within the timeline that we've provided. But we have to make sure that the projects that we identify and the work we turn over to you is an actual solution to the problem. So we totally understand the sense of urgency, and we're right there with you, you know, and we definitely are moving as fast as we can.
When you first presented, whoever you worked with, the female, I don't know her name, I've only seen her twice.
Amanda.
She said, Amanda, she said 8 months.
Yeah.
First time at the podium. And I wasn't satisfied with that because we'd already gone through so. So, y'all stuck to the 8 months, sure.
As much as I would love for us to be on a fast track and do this a lot faster, our biggest holdup is funding. We don't have the massive funds that other municipalities have, and we're relying a lot on grants and SRF funds and stuff like that, which we have to go through the proper channels, and it takes time to get. If there's any way that anything could be done more aggressively to make things happen faster, I think us as a commission and the citizens would be very appreciative of that, because I'm tired of us being behind the 8 ball. I want to get us in front of it.
And we completely understand. I mean, the fastest thing that we can do from a fast track perspective is going after the appropriation funding. So, you know, that's something that we're going to work very diligently for. You know, if it does get on the May hearing, you know, that's something that we're going to have to turn around very quickly, generally within a 2-week period to get it on there. We're ready to do that. The team is working on it. If it's in August, obviously it's a little bit further out. You know, we're not sure yet which one it's going to be. We haven't released that information, but that's the thing that we could, you know, would be a potential game changer for these projects is, you know, some help from that state appropriation or the supplemental appropriation fund.
Are you aware of any temporary measures that we could take in the interim while we are waiting for a permanent solution? Or have any temporary measures been identified? Is there, have we looked into, I know you said something about pumping to different areas, we were trying to identify those. And so where are we in that process? Is there a temporary Band-Aid that we can put on this while we're weathering the next storm?
We'll have a better idea on this probably toward the end of the month. Once we work through where the water can actually be pumped, that will hold it. But as of right now, we don't have this identified where within your community can hold additional water right now.
That's all part of the modeling that you're working on.
It is, yeah.
So with that being said, once those areas are identified, is it, how do we, is it, are you handling, sorry, my brain is going a million miles an hour trying to think of all the ways to get this going. Are you the person or the company that's going to handle the permitting for that and fast track that, or how does that process work so that we can be prepared?
Traditionally, with pumping, you would go into an emergency plan once it's identified, and so depending on where we would be pumping to, we would work with the administration to potentially facilitate the permission to pump in that location. So whether it's reserved, you know, it just depends on where we go to identify what that looks like.
Okay, and then are you able to secure funding for that portion as well, in addition to the other appropriation funds that we're going after?
There are programs that we could secure potentially once it's identified. So hazard mitigation is one of those. And so we'll work, you know, diligently to try to find funding for that as well. So that's traditionally the way that we work, is we try to find funding for projects as we go, no matter what they are, how big or how small.
And so, would it be fair to assume that we would have somewhat of an update by our next meeting on that portion? Or could we request that, see where we are in the process?
We can try, if not by your next meeting, shortly thereafter. Yeah. And then by the July meeting, obviously, we should have it fully complete with all the represented funds.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
I think one of the citizens had a hand.
Do you have a,
I didn't fill out a card, I didn't know. Hello, my name is Derek Mears, I am 351 London Avenue. And so I've been affected by this stormwater situation in the sense that the Lake Calendar's drain basically into my property. And so what the city did is they dug up a culvert that was there from many, many years ago. And so allowed the water to flow. But before the hurricane in August, they, I would say, illegally redug a ditch on my property. And so my thing for the commission would be, if they provide any solutions, make sure that you have the right to take action and not just do it on other people's property without permission. So, because, I mean, so now I have a cement head wall and I have a culvert that literally is on my property and without my permission. And so I've started to take action with the city, asking for public records of how that was even allowed to happen. So definitely pertaining to the stormwater issue.
on that note? Now, you should have some cards, because just come up and fill out a card, and way we can have more records. That's the one thing that was asked of me before, is just at least have a.
Thank you, I did.
They're on the piano over there.
Thank you. I wanted to hear the engineer speak before I had anything to say.
Okay, one of you can come up and speak right now while the other one's going now. You were up first, come, sir. And just give us your
Just
name.
fill that out, make sure we get it when you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, like the other gentleman.
Your name and address.
Thank you very much. So I'm Taylor with 190 Clow Avenue, where the Clow Avenue off of Lake Shore. So, Lakeview. So, the problem with us is the same as this other gentleman. Everything dumps onto our property. So my main question is, everybody has the same thing. The water's dumping on all of our property. My concern is there anything that I can do myself now? And once I go out there and start moving things around, and I start bringing in any kind of rock or start doing anything, it affects my neighbors. So I'm very concerned about not affecting my neighbors, but at the same time, all I had to do, that little sprinkle the other day, it flooded my property. And the property on Clow, it comes down Clow off Lakeview, all the way down onto the property. From Euclid, it comes down both ways down Euclid and empties onto our property. We have a river for any rain that comes through. So just like everybody else, I know everybody has trouble with water, not just us. But my question is, can somebody come out and look at it to give us some ideas of what can we do? I'm not going to wait. I mean, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. It can take these people another year. They don't know for sure. And it's all about funding. You know, so I feel like what I need to do is go in there and do something myself. I just don't want to miss my neighbors. So that's mine.
The other thing that we're all plagued with right now is that the water level table is much higher than it has been in years. So what we would have had a rain that would have permeated into the ground, the water table is so high that it doesn't go anywhere.
You're right.
And that's one of the things that we're going to have to address, but also going to have to live with until that time comes around.
Yes, we're on Lake Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're on Lake Cloud. Lake Cloud comes up and it's my backyard. And again, like the real said, it's full of problems. So, but my main question is there anybody who could come out, take a look and say, you can do this? Right now, I want to put some rock down in my driveway. I don't know how to make a French drain on my driveway that would help around the neighbors. But we are the lowest on cloud coming down to the lake.
Could you fill that out, please?
I've been up in your neighborhood and talked to a couple of your other neighbors and everything. And they had some ideas and everything on it, but most are all waiting for the modeling.
That's right.
Program to get done to see if their modeling addresses the issue. If not, then we can have them added into there. Because you're in that same area where Lake Pearl is, that
That's right.
actually needs to be cleaned out because it's clogged up with invasive plants and needs to be cleaned out.
And it's about the money, and it doesn't look like the money is available right now. So we could be waiting a period of time. My question is, what do we do as residents to help our own properties out and, again, not affect our neighbors? We had a gentleman that was speaking a while ago. He put a pump down. Well, that pump came down the street, came onto our property. So,
Yeah.
you know, so everybody's trying to figure out something to do, and I'm doing the same thing. But I'm ready to get out there.
Even the city, we have to abide by the state
Sure you
law,
do.
and
Sure you
state
do.
law says you're not allowed to flood other people's
In the river
property.
districts and the whole thing, you
Yeah.
understand?
So
So
we
I'm
are
looking
looking,
to do- I may have y'all just come out, I may do it, have y'all come out and look at it.
we are looking at possibly, I believe that we can run a pump from the Lake Pearl area down Lake Pearl to the creek that goes out to Deep Creek, can't we? Isn't that something we do in an emergency situation if we get too much water in?
We've never done it, but it could be done. We have to get all the permitting and all the pumps and all that there and get, you know.
We'd have to go through all the permitting process.
And we understand that. I mean, that has to be done. We gotta watch out for the environment. We understand that. We just, but like I say, I'm just looking for something as a resident that I can do temporarily to hold out for what could be another tonight.
Yes, that can be very difficult. I recall during the floods, you can just hand it to her.
Okay.
Where a family had actually went and spent money to buy 300 bags of dirt, plastic bags, and they made basically a mulch around their house. They weren't sandbags, they were dirt bags with plastic, so it actually made a wall. The gentleman's come before us before that the house was just flooded. So to make decisions on your own, you know, we are now probably coming through the worst natural disaster that the city has ever faced. We don't have a predicate as to what we can do, what we should do, what's done before. We're all pretty much at the whim of nature. We're trying to work ourselves through it the best way we can. So yeah, we're going to learn some things that we probably could have learned a long time ago, but right now we are, you know, dealing with today, not yesterday, and what's going to happen tomorrow is actually a part of our the plan to try to avoid it. Yes. You had your card up? Oh, come on.
Thank you. Thomas Martucci at 261 East Michigan Avenue. My vocation is commercial real estate. I'm in development. I've dealt with the water management district plenty on my own projects. By the time they do their engineering and their planning, it's not going to happen. They're not going to have anything ready to go. We're not doing any projects before this hurricane season. So I can just guarantee that's not going to happen, which then really puts emphasis on what are we doing for emergency pumping application. When I sat up in October, I said, look, everybody's flooded. We see the pumps down I-4. I understand we're going to have a hard time getting an emergency pumping application approved to send water downhill. Well, here we are in April. Everybody downhill has gotten their relief. There should be capacity. I don't know. That's your role as an engineer to design this. I admit I'm a little disappointed. I could hear it on this side too, the disappointment that we're this far in and we've got modeling done and we've got problem areas. But we didn't get one example of a problem area. I can tell you where there is one. It's Lake Harlow, which I believe, not the engineer here, you got to punch a hole in the bathtub. That's what's blocking everything up. You look at those models and it just shows it bottling. So I'm going to get through my points because I know I have limited time. So I'd like to see, knowing that we're not gonna get any of these projects done, that we are at least trying with an application to the St. John's Water Management District for emergency pumping. Get it out to the preserve. My brother lives out in Lone Star. It's dry, guys. There's room. I've never seen his pond that low, ever. We've had a drought-like first quarter, praise God. Praise God, we've had a drought-like first quarter. That ditch that Mr. Mears talked about, it was fully filled with vegetation, native soil, whatever. The earth had put it back. Okay, I know it was in operation years ago. I went on vacation after Ian, and I came back to a lake that was over a foot higher a week later. Why? Because it didn't come through horizontal percolation. It came through somebody opening up a ditch and letting that water run right into my property. Where it's continued to run and it's continued to flood his property. So I'm upset about it, and especially the more I learn about it. Horizontal percolation, not one person in it from that I know of, from that engineering group has been on my property. Yeah. And I've got it modeled. I've got the high water mark, just like you'd have on a bridge. I've labeled it, I've laser measured it. I know exactly where that water height was, I know where it is today. So for the record, you can write this down. We've drained 21.5 inches in that 5-month period. I think it's 5 months to the day that hurricane hit, actually. 21.5 inches is all that lake was drained in 5 months in a drought-like first quarter. That should, everybody's here who's concerned is rightfully concerned. That lake is 4 feet higher, Lake Harlan. It's not Lake Helen, because Lake Helen dumps to Lake Harlan and we eat it. Lake Harlan is 4 feet higher today in April than it was prior to last year in April. I've got photographs, I can prove it, that's easy. We're not even going to get into how much lower it was during Lake Ian, which is about 8 and 9 feet. Last thing I want to talk about is Michigan Avenue. I see a lot of people coming through now because they know it's dry. I understand that. I love the bikers coming through. I love the walkers coming through. It's good to see old faces. You get all the cars turning around and all that. I get it. You know, you can't stop people from who can't read, and I say that to be funny, but they just don't. They're more interested in their time than they are obeying signs. My request for all the things that we're talking about is to please keep that road closed. Please keep those millings there. You guys were kind enough to approve that. I still thank you to this day because you did that. I got gas to my house when I was running out. I have 4 children. My wife homeschools. We were able to get the commercial support services we need, except the trash. Nobody still picks up the trash. I still haul that out myself. No big deal. I can live with that. But please keep the road closed. That's now a 1-lane road where those millings went. Those cars went flying around that corner, and I can't tell you already I hit people head on. You know, we're going slow here, okay? But I'm just trying to get to my house, and my neighbors, who 2 of them are not here, we don't need to be facing cars doing 30 miles an hour on that corner head on that. And if you look at where those millings are, it's about a 14-inch drop. So that's just dangerous. This is dangerous. So my request is leave it closed. Those millings are our bridge, if you will. And I hope to God that we don't, hopefully he'll have mercy on us, that we won't have another 100-year storm event, or even anything close to it, to be honest with you. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. In all reality, that road should still be closed to traffic both ways. It will be. With only residents only allowed to go in there, because the road bed is not stable yet because of how saturated it's been over the years, or this time frame from the flooding. So if we can close that road all completely.
Yeah, just informational wise, just for his concern on plow, they were just in Brussels, 310 Hazel Street. They were illegally pumping. It was actually coming partly from Summit, was illegally pumping down to Lake, the little pond plow. So they were illegally pumping from there down to his property. Of course, we go by if somebody complains because it's their property at the current time. Once the complaints started coming in, and I actually think it was his neighbor that complained, we shut it off from them illegally pumping over for that issue. But they were definitely dumping water from that other pond to his house. And as far as the lake thing, that culvert's been there way before my time, because in 2004, we went down there with the fire department and cleaned it out to open it back up. That's naturally drains over the lake.
It hasn't been open for 20 years.
Yeah.
It has, I opened it in 2004. How many? So what's 20 years ago?
Next, who's that? Ma'am, did you have
Linda Delano, 290 North High Street. I appreciate everyone being here again and voicing their opinions. And we cannot, again, can't go backwards. We can only move forward. And like she said, this is a sense of urgency, and I am glad to hear that people are really wanting to get this done. But when pumping, we wanted to pump, we came to the city, we even got permission to pump down the road, we got a pump, we got hoses, but then we were told that we couldn't do that. So, I don't know why we couldn't pump now, like he said, take care of that water. There's an empty piece of property next to my house, and it is in a trust. I don't know who owns it, but it's in a trust. Get a backhoe out there, dig a deeper hole, the water can go in there. You know, that's one thing you can do. We still have a lake. It keeps going down, but it's still a lake. And the culvert that is there, it's still, you can see the water in it, the little drain. And the culvert is it shoots out to a pond that's back behind. When I moved there, when did I move there? 2018? There was a little bitty pond, and there was a culvert that supposedly is not legal to be there. And I have paperwork at home for that. So you're doing, not you per se, but predecessor people before you came in and did these things. And it should all be looked at. It should all be taken care of. And the sense of urgency should have happened, again, so many years ago, but we need to move forward, and we need to move forward quickly, because if it storms again like it does, the water's going to be in my house this time. I'm glad my neighbors are back in it, but really, find it somehow. Get it, like we said before, get a trunk and pump the water out and take it down the road where he said.
We were looking at doing that, and I'm going to tell you now, one of your current commissioners stopped that.
Well, that's why he's not the commissioner.
No, they're sitting on the board today.
Who stopped it?
The commissioner called St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
St. John's called me, and that stopped and negated the pump.
Well, we didn't even get a chance because we had to fix it.
Well,
but
the other is, it's not a city pond, it's a private pond, so you have an issue even beyond some of the other areas, because it's not a city pond.
No, it's not.
We don't maintain it,
No.
that should be maintained by.
But I don't know where the
owners around.
culvert came from then. There's a culvert that you can't see in there.
In the road.
No, there's a
Yeah,
drain.
It comes from the road.
Right, and it goes down back and it goes into that pond. And it is a private pond. But I don't think that pond was legally put there to begin with. There was no permits for it.
I can't tell you that.
No,
But
but
it's
I have.
not a city pond.
No.
It wasn't even, I'm not arguing.
No.
It wasn't even on the stormwater master plan. So that wasn't even looked at a few years ago involving that, because it's not a city pond. And we wouldn't work on private property.
Well, it's not about the pond. It's about the water that comes up into near our homes and floods our neighbors' homes and floods their home and floods everybody else's home. And I know you call it a national disaster, whatever you want to call it, but this is ours. We live there. You want to talk about people going down the street? Yeah, people did that in our yard too, in our house when it was flooded. People didn't care. And water would just whoosh up into the houses. The people don't care. You people have to do more. This town has to care more about its citizens, about who we are and why we live here. That's all. I thank you very much for this.
Thank you. If you fill out the card, if I can respond.
Sure, you did.
No, I'm talking about, I want my people. You already answered.
Before she gets up there, I want to respond to the previous one. Keep on bypassing everything.
Actually, let me just stop right here. We are taking public comments, and generally with public comments, it's not a back and forth. I'm just making a point of order. point.
Point of order.
The point of order is,
No, the point of order with public comments was earlier, we're discussing an issue on stormwater. There is allowed to be back and forth communication.
it's not on the agenda.
Yes, it is. It's number 6A is what we're still on.
Okay, 6A has public comments that were submitted. We're now letting people come up as they.
And they want answers from us. And this is when we are allowed to respond to them. I know you don't believe in
Don't
Robert's
tell me what I-
rules and protocol and stuff.
Okay.
So let's,
Before this gets out of hand, this is a meeting that we are here to hear from citizens. On a normal basis, there were no blue cards up here. None. I am taking people because of the urgency of the situation. This can get out of hand, and it shouldn't, because we all got the same problem. If there was an easy solution, it would have been done. We're actually trying to work through to get to the rest of the city's business, not just stick on one point. So,
I'm sorry, but you are not allowing us to speak, and you're not giving us answers.
I'm
How
not-
can you
you're
possibly
speaking
move
now.
on to something
You're
else
speaking
that
now.
you cannot even give us answers? You let me speak. I'm a part of this town. I'm
That's-
a part of it, and I know this is an agenda. I've been a part of these things for a long time. But you are not giving us answers that we need to hear. We are citizens of this town. What more do you want to hear from us, but you don't want to hear from us?
no, please.
No, that's not exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying to us.
Would you please? Okay.
Got an answer.
Where are you now? Your card? Have it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Caitlin Taylor, 664 McKenzie. I'll be quick. I think that Mr. Martucci brought up a good point in that maybe the pumping that one of the commissioners called on St. John or John's, if they shut it down, maybe we didn't go through the right channels for that one, but if we can go through the right channels, maybe get with St. John's to approve some pumping, and that's a viable option. That's a great thing you could do immediately. So I don't know who Jim would have to reach out. Is it a commissioner? Is it admin at City Hall? Who goes to St. John's River Management and goes through those channels?
We deal with them. They're the ones who called me to say that a commissioner called to get the pumping stopped. And when the process was looked through, they did say, you are not allowed to pump from one person's property to another. They're not allowing that process, so they would not have issued a permit to pump. They got called because they heard we were going to.
Okay, they don't want any pumping.
And they were stopping.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cook?
We got permission from. You said we had to pull a permit, but if we got permission from the landowner to pump water, we still have to pull a permit?
Oh, I'll let you speak. Let him speak.
Three lanes. The only thing that I wanted to get up, I wasn't going to say nothing, but I have to. With that gentleman right there. What happened with Orange Avenue, so people understand, the only reason, and that Orange Avenue is only wide enough to give them access to their house. That was the idea of doing Orange Avenue. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that road is not wide enough to open it so you got two cars coming one way or another. That's not that should be not closed until they get it finished.
Yeah, we have no intention of opening.
Okay, that sounds better. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Sir,
No, you have
No, just a quick question.
your question.
Go there.
I'm pretty boisterous because I don't.
Come up to the point and give us.
Yeah, give your name, and I'll fill out your card for you.
So if we got permission from a property owner, say I got 100 acres and I'm telling you, sir, go ahead and pump your water into my property, I got to pull a permit for that?
with St. John's River Water Management.
Why? I'm not putting it into St., I'm not doing anything to St. John.
St. John's controls the state waters.
Okay, great, but this isn't state water. I know what you're
You're
saying.
arguing with me, St. John's is the one who regulates that, we don't.
Well, then I would love to know the person who called, because we had a great agreement, and we could have had our houses, and my neighbors, the Jensens, we're out thousands of dollars, and we pumped not an ounce of water.
Please don't raise your voice to me, because
I'm not, I don't mean to, that's why I don't speak. Thank you for your
Sir,
time.
Thank you.
sir,
This is a waste of
sir.
Okay, Sean Abshire.
John Hampshire, 235 East Ohio Avenue. Mr. Woodson, who was the commissioner that called to stop the company?
I'd let the commissioner deal with it.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
May I was trying to go ahead.
Was it you?
Say that, yes, it was me. Because the water, the city went out and started putting out pumps to pump water that was flooding other people's properties. No permits had been pulled with St. John's Water Management. It's illegal. You cannot, and the homeowner who's allowing the water to flow into somebody else's property could be in trouble. But we had pipes out there, we had pumps out there, and we were about to flood other properties. We've either got to do it legally, we've got to do it right, we've got to do it right for all citizens. Because the property owner who lives, I don't know, in Japan or wherever he lives, said it was okay, that's great. But we had to have the other parts completed to pump. That would have been a great area to do it. However, our city staff obviously didn't know to get in touch with St. John's Water Management to ask if we could do this and move the water flow. It had to be stopped until we could get it done legally. I'm not afraid to say that I'm the one who did it to protect other citizens as well.
Thank you. On that note, water, we've gone past that. We're actually to the, we're at the 6A. 6B, right. City Hall mold remediation, background service. In late 2021, mold was detected in the second floor of the City Hall, and as a result, City Commission closed public access to the second floor in February of 2023. The issue, the city conducted mold testing on 4 occasions: October 27, 2021, February 3rd, 2023, March 11, 2023, and March 6, 2025. The results indicated an increase in mold spore count between the initial and the March 23 testing. However, the most recent test on March 6 showed a reduction in total spores, potentially due to roof repairs that allowed the building to begin drying out. But despite this improvement, professional advice confirms that the mold will not fully resolve on its own and remediation is necessary. Okay? Any comments? Anybody wants to speak?
Mayor, I'll add further to that. They also gave a recommendation in reference to, actually this was done in several stages. We had a testing company come in, they test, and then they send them off to an independent testing agency. In your packets, you have a copy of the 4 tests from October of 21, March of 23, March 9th of 23, November 1 of 23. All those testings were done prior to my arrival. And then the one we did on March 6th. So the March 6th ones do show You know, while the problem is still upstairs, with that the spore count was going down, and they're below at least what are the suggested guidelines, because there's no official federal standards in reference to grading the molding. And what was recommended is that there needs to be a thorough cleaning and treatment of all the HVAC systems, the air ducts, supply and return vents with antimicrobial solution, and that means dismantling and taking them outside and doing treatment in terms of that, in addition to treating the walls, the cupboards, and what have you. And then the other step of that is the removal of the ceiling in the second floor in the commission chambers, and removing that out, checking what's up behind there in the attic and what have you. And then in the cleanup process, a new roof would go in, so you'd have a new roof, you'd have all the areas cleaned, you'd have the HVAC system, you know, completely sanitized and cleaned out. And phase one, the cleaning portion and the remediation is $21,808.66, and then phase two, the replacement of the ceiling on the second floor is $36,677. Total price estimated at $58,558.41, and that deals just strictly with the mold. No other issues with the building, no windows, no other construction. Prior,
I just want to make sure you mentioned roof, but you meant ceiling.
Ceiling, and
Okay.
ceiling, the roof or the ceiling
right.
in the chamber.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
And a couple of years or so ago, some prices were got, and they ranged anywhere from $48,000 to almost $200,000 for the same prospect. ServPro was recommended to us by the company that does the testing, and then so it comes back valid or whatever, then they recommend either homeowner or business or whatever and go with them. There are other companies that do that, and we've got prices that range in that area, but if we want to get moving and expedite a process, I would ask the commission to waive the bid process and allow us to go forward with ServPro and get phase one started and phase two started, so we can get that second floor completely done and available then for it to be reutilized again to the public and the commission for its meetings.
And that also cleans out all of the air flowing downstairs to the employees also.
All of that. And then separate from that, Cookie and his committee were working on the building or whatever wise. Now I do have something I can pass out. This was from former Mayor Shuttleworth, at least some initial work he did involving windows. He took a window down in the library and used it as a test window and kind of refurbished, rebuilt, and restored. And what I've handed out to you now, again, this is separate from the mold, but that he's identified at least in his review 22 windows, 10 on the second floor, 12 on the first floor. And this is the sills, and all 22 would be an estimated of about $9,000. And then 4 bottom window stashes to be restored would be another $3,000, so you'd be looking at about a $9,000 addition. You don't have to make a decision on that tonight because this could be tied back into, I know Mayor's not here tonight, Cookie's working with them, and Angelo is out of town this week and needs the other construction aspects, so they would be coming back with some suggestions and ideas involving the other needs that tie into this, because as long as your windows are leaking and seeping and water is getting in, you know, it's still bringing moisture into the building and it's still rotting the wood in terms of there. But while they do have an impact on the second floor, but they're not directly impacting the mold. That mold was due to the roof leaking and not caught for, I don't know how many years? 5? A lot.
Jim, can I add just one?
Yeah, Cookie, you're on the committee.
Actually, I think problems with air conditioning that causes it. And neglect, a lot of neglect. But anyhow, right now, with Servpro, Jimmy, we had gone over that a couple weeks ago at our house. And what he's talking about doing is the most reasonable way for us to get rid of the danger in that building professionally, so we won't have to worry about it anymore. We won't have to worry about moving here, doing this, doing that, anything else. Now, the windows, I talked to Mark this morning, and we have figured out the bad windows, the windows that are leaking, or so forth, right? And this bid here is for the windows that are bad. And that'll take care of that. Now, the windows, other windows can be done in place with some other company or something someday, but we don't need that done right now. He is quoted for the windows that we need fixed now. But we get Servpro in here to do what we gotta have to do, and then do the windows. We're coming down home stretch, and we're a lot less than $1 million. Thank you.
Quickly before you go, in our basement of City Hall is where the air handlers are. Would you give me the update? What is the air
I'm
handler?
sorry, I should have said something about that. Angelo has an air conditioner guy who is wonderful. Let me tell you something, he's great. And what we've already planned on doing, Angelo is gonna build a platform out there, right outside where they are. Come up the drive, most people wouldn't know it. There's a little corner right in there. Angelo is gonna pour a slab in there and get them up out of the ground. And then we're gonna move those 3 units from downstairs up there, set them on a thing and build a roof over it and some walls, and the front doors will be available to come in and work on them and everything else. But the big thing is with that, by getting them up out of the basement, our ductwork, because we're gonna have to put new ductwork in, will be up higher. So we can go right into the building. You understand? We don't have to pump it upstairs, go upstairs. So that will cure another big hole. And also, I'm so excited because let me tell you something. When you said $1 million, I said we could do it for $950,000. But anyhow, we're really coming down home stretch. But what we need out of this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vote to get this thing moving, so we can start using our building safely. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
The question I want to have is, how did the basement get flooded? Where did that water come from?
Came right down the steps.
Came right down the steps. So,
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have a way to divert water getting in our basement.
Okay. Hang on, Jim, and I worked with Jim on that.
Please do.
And believe it or not, when they were pumping originally, I looked at it and I said to Jim, I said, wait a minute, we gotta put a longer hose on this thing to get it out where there's a low area. Now, I took the time to shoot the grades out there and everything else. All we'd have to do is the sidewalk. After the sidewalk, there's a big hump there. Come in there like with Alan's Bobcat. Not a big project. Come in there with a Bobcat, cut that down, so that water, instead of going in the basement, will come out into the yard. That's the easy way out, and it'll be cheap to agree to do that. So that's the cure for that. We got 2 cures here.
Okay, Jim, you had something?
Yeah, just as we're going through this, and I credit Roxanne, when we were looking for records up in the storage room. Sitting here holding in front of me, it's a request for construction proposal for Phase 2 Lake Helen City Hall restoration. This is dated September 10th, 2002.
Isn't that crazy?
This construction company sent in a bid to be the project manager, okay? And that project fee was 15% of the project was $275,000. 15% of that is a $1,833,000 project. So somebody at Lake Helen was talking about $1.8 million on that city hall back in 2002. What happened to it? We don't know. So here we are in 2025 talking about renovation of City Hall.
Well, what's crazy to back him up on this 100% is, that was our problem. That roof was leaking 5.5 years. Okay, I know it was 5.5 years. Tony Troy and myself went up and checked that and everything else. But that was left leaking. If that wasn't leaking, like when they tear that, you know, the ceiling down, let me tell you something, I've seen what's up there. That is a big problem. But they let this happen. And that proves it. When he put that out today, I said, what? He said, 2,002 cookies. So I'm just saying one thing. Please, let's get going on this whole project so we can get it done and get out of this building safely. I'm getting too old.
Yes. And the last thing Mayor and Commission talked with the company would not require any evacuation of the building.
No.
This could be done. They know how to seal the upstairs. They wear the right uniforms. They bring in the right equipment and do that. Because I asked, how would that affect? Would it disturb the air and wear it down? And they said that would all be contained so that we would not have to empty the building. We wouldn't have to set bases up or anywhere else. This work could be done on City Hall.
Are they gonna do the Surf Pro water test and put a crane with a big giant full of water and dump it on City Hall?
You watch the television, Dan, what's that?
Good.
Like it never even happened.
Yes.
On the AC thing, between what they're submitting here from Surf Pro and what Angela is saying to this AC guy, do they play hand in hand with each other?
Well, in this case, the only problem is Angelo went on a free cruise. I'll tell you that. And I met with Angelo and actually Tim did too. This guy, this air conditioning guy, I already had talked to 2 other people. But let me tell you something, after being with this guy and Angelo has, I mean, this guy knows what he's doing and he can do it cheap. Like, we were, oh, we have to get rid of all them air conditioners and don't do. No. All we have to do is rebuild them, clean them and rebuild them, and they'll be perfectly all right. And he'll warranty it too.
So Surf Pro cleans them,
The Surf Pro's doing the ductwork and stuff, all of that, so, yeah.
Yeah, not the relocation of the one in the basement, just out there.
No, that Angela's gonna handle that for us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any more comments on
need to
this?
make a motion.
Yes, I'd like to see that.
I make a motion that we do what Jim suggested. Wait for the bidding process.
What he said.
Get the job, all what he said, and let's get going on this thing.
Yes.
Is there any directions that you need? Is that enough for you to go to?
The commission just needs to make that motion.
I did, you got a second, didn't you?
Do I have a second? Motion moved in second.
And my concern is it's a phase 1 and phase 2. Are we doing Surf Pro for the cleaning and remediation, or are we also doing it for
That's them for the whole
the
thing.
ceiling replacement stuff, which Angelo had talked about?
Now,
No.
he was talking about the air conditioners.
I thought he was also talking about reconstruction.
That's downstairs, we're moving those air conditioners up, which has nothing to do with Safe Pro.
Surf Pro has 2 different divisions.
Two different
Division,
divisions.
and they have the construction division, so.
Yeah, they restore
Yeah.
things.
They're gonna do what we got here.
So do you need any directions besides what we?
If this motion passes,
All right.
we wait the bid process, and
The motion is using Surf Pro.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have no discussion before we vote? No comments?
What time frame are we looking at? How long will it be before? So have you talked to Surf Pro?
yeah, they've been out several times. They called today, they knew the meeting was today, and I said, I'll have a meeting tonight or tomorrow. So tomorrow, if I get a time frame mobilization, you all will know that via email tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Zone 1? Zone 2?
One more question, and we got the funding ready for this already?
Well, how it works, I mean, we will fund it, we will take it out of building maintenance, it will go over budget. We're still in March or April in terms of there. So as the year goes on, other areas will come up. If we need to, in the end, we'll do a budget motion, and you can take that money if it needs to be out of ARPA. But right now, we don't have to do any motions or anything like that. We operate it out of the current budget, and then we'll just deal with it because it's kind of like the hurricane. You know, we're gonna see a line item here in 1 month or so that's gonna be $500,000, okay? The good thing is when.
Lucky if it's that low.
Well, I know, and I just gave you some ballpark, we're there, but then the FEMA offset would come in at 100% and back, so, no, that won't hold that up. We'll deal with I mean, we have the money, but we'll just deal with how we properly allocate it before the.
As long as we get the allocations for it.
Let's take into consideration.
All right, we're taking a vote. Right now, we already at discussion, so zone 2,
I said yes.
zone 3,
Yes.
zone 4?
Yes.
I said yes, and. Okay.
And plus that, Vernon, we have two things going in Tallahassee. I'll just leave it that way.
Thank you.
Let me just remind us that we have $30,000 worth of audio equipment up there that we can get hooked back up and start using too. It'd be wonderful,
Yes.
because right now it's just sitting there going to waste.
Audio, video.
No video, just audio.
Well, I mean, even if we have for our presentation.
But we could use the
Yeah,
video
we
up there
could.
better.
We could. Now we're in the consent agenda. Is there anyone that has anything that they'd like to pull out of either the minutes or the payment of the bills or the budget variance report?
I would like to pull out A, B, and C.
A, B, and C, okay, so we take them one at a time. Approval of the minutes, start with the minutes.
Looking on page 63 of the minutes, which is the spring, summer 2025 city events. This is listed, this citywide garage sale is listed as a city event in the minutes. It was my understanding that this was not a city event, but only that the city was waiving the signage fees.
Correct.
But it's listed as a city event with Karen's name as the event's coordinator.
Those were the events that Karen she said,
Yes.
these are the events that are happening. She didn't say it was a city event. She just said, these are the things that are happening. She even mentioned an American Legion event at some point during that discussion. She was just listing the things that are happening in the month of April. I wasn't saying it was a city event, so I just put what she listed.
Okay, because I don't see American Legion on here, so. All right, as long as we know, or that people know that this is not a citywide event, because I was sent something from a couple of people in this town that was disgraceful on advertising the city event. Didn't
I
make us
thought it
look.
was hilarious.
Oh, well, you would.
Yes,
I as long as the city is not, we claim ourselves as the gym, then it was really in poor taste, and that's all I've got to say.
We're not reporting it, and won't be on Saturday Citizen.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, as, we take them one at a time?
We might as well go vote on that.
Okay.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye in favor? Pass. No one, no. Okay. Did do the, I'm sorry. Acceptance of the bills, B. We have a point on that?
This is me.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I ask this question just about every month. We hired, under what I was told, the discussion I had, her and Woodward, with the understanding that we would be getting rid of Pond. Pond's been around quite quite a while, and ever since we hired Curtin, when I came back with a question of why do we still have Pond, it's because, well, there's still some things for them to do. How many more things do we have for them to do? Because again, and this is in March, and they got paid in February as well. It was $11,000, and it just says engineering services through, because I can't believe it doesn't.
They are doing the CBDG project on Kinfire.
So how long do we think that's going to take?
I don't know, tomorrow when we have a Zoom call with them, because we lost representatives for 2 months, and didn't even know they were gone, so we lost 2 months of the planning process. So we've been putting pressure on them to get that done, because we have a deadline with the county. So I agree, I have a Zoom call with them tomorrow.
Which representatives?
Pond.
Elected representatives or part of their company?
No, with Pond, to know, because they were supposed to be doing the plans, getting the bid package, and what have you. We thought we were ready to go in December.
Okay.
And then found out in February the people handling that were gone. Pond didn't even let us know they were gone.
Okay.
The new people dealing with it are all in Atlanta, so they're not Florida based. So we're looking to wrap up, and that is the last thing. We're not going forward with them on any of the other projects.
All right.
Well, with the bills paid, should I follow through with the variance?
Well,
That's part of the bill.
well, let's do one at a time so we can go and we separate it into the 3 parts. And we'll get to that after.
Okay, well, the third part is what?
Budget variance report.
Okay, so we should be talking about the budget.
Okay.
The variance report.
All right, so we'll take a vote on this.
Make a motion, we accept the bills paid report.
Second.
Motion moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did we just vote on the variance report?
No.
Yeah, I missed it.
You
Okay.
separate
Bills
it.
paid.
1, 2.
Okay, good.
So how do you vote?
No.
No? 1 vote no? 3, 4, yes. Okay, now we're down to the variance reports. Okay. I'll take this time, as we have our budget, and then we have our bills that we pay, and then we have variances. Whenever something goes over the budget, it's a variance. We, in this commission, have began to take the variance reports and to handle them separately. So we don't wind up a year from now, 6 months from now, finding out that we went so far on the budget.
It's a great way to be able to see where we're standing. What I'm seeing is, sorry. The variance report is for February. Our budget, bills paid, is for March. And I'm wondering, are we supposed to get February variance report to jive with the March?
No,
There's going to be.
they're not related. The numbers won't match there. I told you guys in the very beginning that the way our meetings fall and the way that the books close with Zach, they can't get us the current month of March for this meeting. So since the day one we've done these reports have been 1 month behind. So this isn't new.
Bills paid.
No, the variance report is always 1 month behind. The bills paid is your current month.
Okay, so what you're saying here, I believe it has to do with the general fund budget.
Yeah.
And financial impact as of February 28th, that we're 2.3% under budget?
Yes.
In our general funds?
Yes.
Can I ask why?
We're running under budget, which means we're not spending what we should.
I know it's, we'll still have to
Well, those numbers will change every month.
Okay.
As of February, we're under budget. Each month, I give you a report on where we're at.
Okay.
So as long as it's under budget, I'm happy.
It's going down.
One of the
Which
advantages.
is a good thing, which means that we may not, so when we need to come up with $50,000 for City Hall, we may have that in here because of the fact that we're under budget. We're spending less than what we thought we would at this point in the year. What doesn't mean things won't happen to us.
One of the advantages of having this, if the financial impact would show that we are 10 points over budget, then that's a red flag. That we can kind of put the ship back in.
Yeah, I think that the CA can confirm that I was the one that kept pushing for this.
Well, yeah, well, that's why I'm kind of confirming it, because it's really your base that got
I'm
there.
looking at 2.3%.
Yeah, that means we didn't spend that much yet.
I guess I should have said lower, but higher.
Okay.
Then, I've already talked about the 75% preferring, so that's all I have.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this?
Make a motion that we accept the variance report.
Second.
Motion moved to second. Is there zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3? Zone 4?
Yes.
And I say yes. Motion pass.
Lynn, could I just ask, why no vote on a variance report? There's just nothing to report about that on the current budget? You have that right, but I'm trying to understand what it is you're voting against.
So you can fix it next time.
So you want me to go over budget? Come on.
That's kind of like a ridiculous
Well,
statement.
but
That's
I'm
my
ridiculous
vote.
voting and
My
no on
vote
budget that's
stands.
under.
That's my vote. My vote stands, and I have
So I
my.
understand, so there's no reason for that.
There is a reason.
We had a guy in our union in meetings, he'd always vote no on the budget.
Okay, that's fine.
Just on principle.
It means nothing. I get it.
Right, right.
I get it, it means nothing.
So are you gonna stop doing the consent agenda?
Huh?
Because you said before, if we can't do everything as a consent agenda, there's no point in doing it. So are you gonna stop doing the consent agenda? Discuss everything separate?
Okay. Now we're down to the 8B, the event application for Memorial Day Tribute Car Show.
Where are you going?
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a circle already. The review of the temporary CO for sidewalks at 352 Lemon Avenue.
Jim, Mr. White is not, sorry. Mr. White is not coming for the sidewalks.
You got it, Jen?
They're not made for it. They're just there.
What we, back when this house got a temporary CO on Lemon, there was the issue about the sidewalk, you know, whether they build a sidewalk or pay into. And the question came down on, was there even enough right-of-way on Lemon for a sidewalk? So the commission asked that we go do a survey. Survey was done, and the survey shows that you don't have easement on the property on the north side of Lennon to accommodate a sidewalk. You can do a sidewalk, and the owner has given us numbers that would be more than happy to sell you the strip, to put a public sidewalk on his property for $9,315. And then the estimated cost of the sidewalk is another $8,536.25. So 9 and 8 is 17. You have the other, so about $18,000 if you want a sidewalk on the north side of.
No, because he'd be paying for the sidewalk. We'd just be buying his property, so it'd be a wash.
So we're looking at,
So there is no right of way on that side. The La Costa property has reactivated their application, they're going through. If that ever gets to the level of PRDC and you all, there would be a requirement for the sidewalk on the south side of Lebanon on that property. And there is enough right of way in terms of there. So the gentleman at, I think it's 722 Lemon, is that the right address? He's got a temporary CO because we gave him the CO to move in based on that sidewalk issue. So the commission wants a sidewalk on that side. Charlie, you are correct, the homeowner, puts that in, but then he would want to be compensated for the $9,000.
Now, that's just from the property line to property line on his property.
That's just his.
That's not the rest of it.
No, then you got another two lots. That's you're going to end up with the same issue. Now, you have a little better, more right of way as you're moving west. East on that, but we have a problem on the, going further west. So sidewalk on the north end may be a little more prohibitive or difficult. It may be best to see what happens with the development that is being proposed on the south side, since there is enough right of way on there, and the sidewalk would just be on the south side road, if that were to go forward.
I only got one thing, if you do the sidewalk on the south side, you have to remove all the trees.
Yeah.
Every tree on there has to be removed. So, and if you do it on the north side, you've got to buy everybody's property. Just to clarify, if you want to do that.
thank you for that.
Yeah, so that 9,000 maybe then 3 lots, so you could be at 27, 30,000.
If they want to sell it the same
If
price.
they want to sell.
At the same price.
And the south side, you said has the property, you have to buy that property. That would be 352 or 351.
352 is.
I know what he's saying, he wants to sell it for. What's the fair market value?
Well, he took that off of the most recent sales involving both his property and the lot next to him, so he did come in and use it based on sales price of what he paid for his property, and then compare it to lot next to him.
That may not be fair market value, what he paid for his.
Then you would enter eminent domain, and then the law goes in his favor. And you will pay a lot more than $9,000 for the right of way.
And he's happy with $9,000?
It was his amount that he suggested.
That's the amount he brought in and brought us the numbers and showed where he got them.
And then he has to pay for the sidewalk.
Which means we'd be giving him the money to pay for the sidewalk.
Doesn't sound like much
Depends on how
Well, it is.
you apply safety into it, it's a great deal.
Well, yeah, I'm talking money here. I'm giving up property.
The south side has
Has
right of
right.
way, but
So
we
they
have
wouldn't
to
have to buy
have
anything.
all the trees.
But the trees would be the issue, yeah, unless the sidewalks somehow could go through. I don't know, because we haven't got to that part yet for design and all of that. He just met with us in the last week. Yeah.
The south side, most of the trees there are not like specimen trees, but you do have one live oak near Mr. Mears' property right there that is a live oak that would be in the way. The rest of them are actually, a few of them just old laurel oaks, water oaks, and a couple things down there. The problem you have is the one specimen tree down by there, which doesn't mean you don't have to, but I'm just saying there is one live oak right there.
I have a card. Danielle?
I apologize, I should have, he's not talking, but giving you the numbers and the survey.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Danielle Haisham, 291 South Newport Ave. I just want to make a comment that sidewalks are lovely
and they're important when we can put them in. But that road, the north part of that road is getting developed. There's some homes that are gonna be coming in. And since this survey shows we don't have property there to put a sidewalk in, I don't even think it's wise to discuss trying to purchase a piece of his property, put in a sidewalk, because the neighboring properties may not even want to sell. And to have a sidewalk that ends, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't think it's even something we should be discussing further. Let's just deal with it if we need to on the south side of that road, and maybe somehow create a jog around the live oaks that are there, and just move on. This is really kind of senseless. Thank you.
Cookies? Yes, sir.
I went out there today, and we measured everything and figured it all out and everything else. Now, the gentleman after the meeting came to me and said, Cookie, he says, I am a contractor, and I can put my own sidewalk in. I says, okay, now the problem is we don't have the property. Well, I told him at that time, I says, we might be able to work out, but you have to take the responsibility. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, if you let us put the sidewalk in there and people use it and everything else and somebody gets hurt, and then the liability is there, and he goes, you didn't have to come with that. I said, well, okay, but I'm telling you, that could be possible. But let me explain something to you. In the contracting business, if Steve Costa, I don't know Steve, he's cheap, but anyhow, but if they're gonna do a development plan on that property, okay, the only thing I can see out of that is when they're doing the concept plan for that, being I'm on the planning board, okay, then the thing would be, we'd have to put that in there, that they would have to positively put a sidewalk in there as part of their development plan. That's my suggestion.
Well, any comments?
Two questions. One is, he's got a temporary CO, and you need to be able to give the guy a permanent CO, since he'll be getting his house now for several months. So if we're not going to entertain purchasing property, and we focus on the south side, then I'd like to be able to go ahead and change his certificate of occupancy from hello. From a temporary CO to a permanent CO, so we can close him off and he's done.
Is that reasonable? Reasonable?
Yeah.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we go ahead and give Ed, I believe, for his last name, his certificate of occupancy, so we can give you it legally, even though it's already paid on.
A motion? Need a second?
Could we restate that? I could not hear you at all. I'm so sorry. Could you please restate that motion?
Yeah, I'm just making a motion that we go ahead and give the resident his certificate of occupancy, close that out. That's one thing on this plate.
Thank you.
We have a second?
I second it.
Before we vote, any other comments from the audience? Hearing none. So one?
I have a question.
Yes, question.
For our city attorney on what our policy says in reference to this property.
What policy?
Specifically.
for like North Beach residents.
The sidewalk, is what you're asking about? Well, the issue here is that there isn't land to kind of sidewalk. That's an issue on the sidewalk. You can't put, because we put the right of way, we won't have right of way, so we have to address that issue first, requirement to have a sidewalk. And because the sidewalk issue wasn't resolved, he was allowed to move into the temporary CO. So the notion resolves the temporary CO aspect of it, makes it a permanent CO, and then you all need to decide, so we're just gonna not do a waiver requirement for a sidewalk because there's an adequate space, or do you want to buy adequate space and then have a sidewalk installed? That'll be a second motion.
So the motion on the floor right now is
The CO.
the CLO. Okay.
To do away with the temporary makeup permits.
Is that suffice for you?
Yes.
I'd rather wait till all the issues are resolved to change it.
Okay, any more comments?
Do you need that?
The sidewalk issue resolved before we give him a permit CO.
How exists on a temporary?
Right now we have a motion, we have a second, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, zone one.
Yes.
Zone one, yes. Zone two? No. Zone two, no. Zone three?
Yes.
Zone three, yes. Zone four?
Yes.
Yes, I vote yes. One vote no. Okay. Now we're moving down to the car show.
No, you're gonna do it on the sidewalk.
Oh, between the,
Make a motion that the city purchase the necessary property for sidewalk to be installed.
I asked Roger just a question there that since the cost of one is now active, could maybe go to PLDRC April or May at the very latest, that would involve the sidewalk, the full line on the south side. You want a sidewalk on both sides of the road?
Yeah.
could you restate that again?
Make a motion that the city work on purchasing the property from the homeowner for a sidewalk on the north side.
Do I have a second? Is there a second? Going once, going twice. Guys, for lack of a second.
Let you know, they're gonna remove all them trees, no more shade there.
I didn't second it, Roger, I just want you to know.
Okay.
My thoughts on it is that we don't know what the people next door to them are going to do. There's no guarantee that we'll be able to purchase land on the neighboring properties, so we may just have one section of sidewalk that ends and then another one down here.
Well, I was getting one motion done, then I was gonna come back with another motion to handle that. So we didn't get that far, nobody wants sidewalks in Lake Helen, so.
I'm willing
I don't know anybody
to
made that comment, but
listen to
the
your.
point is that,
I'd love to hear your train of thought on that, sir, because that wasn't for us to consider. And so that was my rationale for the motion that you had on the floor at the time.
The way I look at it is our requirement to provide safety for the citizens of Lake Helen. We have a number of citizens that like to jog and walk in Lake Helen. And we have limited number of sidewalks and places for them to be other than in the streets. The homeowner has given us an opportunity, he's gonna sell partial of his land so that he can install a sidewalk on his part. We can then go and have our staff negotiate with the other remaining property owners to get the necessary property so that when they do build a house there, they can have a sidewalk installed to complete the sidewalk down Lemon from Vervet to Orange. That would give those citizens a place to walk safely rather than in the street. And that's what my goal was.
What about the house there's west of there, Roger?
West of Orange, it's a lake.
okay,
Are you not talking that big, huge house they're now building?
Talking about, that's the one that's willing to sell us as property.
Right. What
The
about-
other ones next to it on the west and east is the ones that would be my second motion that the city negotiate to obtain the right of way, so that when they do build there, they put in a sidewalk.
Well, there is one.
They already built.
That's what I'm getting at.
They're
Well,
not gonna, there's no guarantee that anybody else is gonna sell us their property.
Well, that motion is dead on arrival, so whatever feeling we have about it, it didn't get expressed in the motion. So, what's the next thing?
I'm gonna make another motion. Make a motion that we have staff negotiate with the property owners along Lemon between Pratt and Orange for the right of way for sidewalk placement on the north side.
Have staff, say it again, brother. Motion to have staff.
Have staff negotiate with the property owners along the north side of Lemon between Pratt and Orange for placement of sidewalks, either current or future.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I have a question.
Question.
So that will come back before us, and then we can consider those as, the goal is to consider that as a group?
Individually or as a group, that's the way the negotiation will go through with each property owner.
But it wouldn't be for them to purchase, it'd be for us to consider one-on-one or as a group.
Yeah, if it's the same property owner for the other three, then yeah, that would be a group, but this one would be separate unless he owns all the property.
I think what you're asking is, does that have to come back to the commission for final approval to purchase anything, and I would say yes. Roger's motion says we negotiate, then we bring back the results from the negotiation.
But they can bring them back piecemeal, not as.
Piecemeal or all at one time, and I understand what you're saying, you may not want to buy one unless you know you get them all.
Going back to the question, Heather, I think it would be advantageous if this passes, that my recommendation is to deal with all of them and have all or none, because if not, then we're going to have slab of concrete here, and we're going to have 3 lots of no slab of concrete, and then what did it accomplish?
How does this reflect other property that's not in this area that have the same situation? Will they be required to make a sidewalk? There is none before?
Well, your ordinance requires that now. You waived it on a number of people, so we don't have consistency.
Okay.
But it does say, you know, they're or contributing. But this happens to be a unique case in the sense that there's no right of way, you don't need the property. They're contributing to building a sidewalk and public right of way. Here, we're looking to acquire their property. And, you know, then the question is, you know, did each one of them pay to put in the sidewalk? So it's two tones. I mean, they've got the obligation to put in the sidewalk if we buy the property. And you should be the devil's advocate. Somebody might say to me, well, I'm selling it to you. You want a sidewalk? You pay to put it in, you bought the property. But we won't know until we talk.
And this is where the approval of the CO comes into play, because now you have no negotiating room.
That's right. But I can't hold them hostage to not sell land on CO.
Well.
Can we have a motion?
Yes. Do we have a second? That was the discussion that you brought up, Mr. Rutledge. We have a motion and a second. No second?
I second.
Thank you. There's no second. There is no motion. And is there anything else on this particular item?
Technically, then you go to the ordinance commission should then waive the construction of the sidewalk because it's not practical unless, and your staff is to assume that because there is land there, it's not practical. But technically the code says you all waive it, if it's not practical to build.
So the motion would be to waive the
Obligation to build a sidewalk
obligation
because it's not practical.
because it's impractical. That's another motion.
I make a motion that we waive the building of the sidewalk because it's not practical.
A second.
That's second.
Motion moved in second. Zone 1.
Comment first.
Comments?
Oh.
Yes, now you can come up. I'm sorry.
It just,
Moving right along.
this is just a Kayla Troy 664 McKinsey. This is just something, we are an equestrian town as well. If we are wanting something for people to enjoy and get through, but we have, and maybe this is more on the south side of Linden, can we consider maybe an equestrian path that kind of weaves maybe around the trees, but isn't maybe concrete, isn't required, is it maybe quite, maybe there could be some sort of compromise there. We don't have any real equestrian paths in our town, but that is in our comp plan. It's all over in our identity as Lake County and City Drain, but we don't have anything like that, and maybe that could give people somewhere to be off the road, but maybe not be as permanent as sidewalk. That's just a suggestion.
Any more comments? No comments? Zone 1?
Could you come back to me?
That's not fair.
I know, I'm trying to sort through this in my brain.
Selective calling on motions is frowned upon.
You can always start from the other end and go up.
Right, it's harder to do it after I've started. It's easier to do it before I started this. But anyway, in this case, I will just give you a second. Zone 4.
Yes.
Zone 4, yes. Zone 3.
Confused at this point. Exactly, I'm confused at this point.
Yes. Now back to Zone 1.
432.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm back now. So 3 is no. So now you have 2 yes.
4 is yes, 3 is yes, 2 is no.
2 yes and 1 no. And now it's on you and then the mayor. Pressure.
Yes.
So yes. The mayor votes yes. Motion passed.
What's that? 4-1.
4 to 1.
4 to 1. You captured the one? Roxanne? Yes. You captured it? Okay, moving right along. Now the Memorial Day tribute, which is a car show. It's an application for a car show. Applications are forced. Had this before. Any comments? We have the car show and then we have a recommendation for a member. Let's do the car show first. Motion for the car show.
Make a motion that we accept the application for the Memorial Day car show.
Second.
Motion second. Any comments from the audience? All in favor? Say aye. Ayes have it. So moved. Next one would be request for a historical preservation member recommendation. Mr. Sean Abshire, here. Mr. Abshire will come up. Okay. This is for a seat on the Historic Preservation Board. Mr. Sean Abshire, 22, well,
235 East Ohio Avenue.
Okay, we're at our applications, or any comments?
There's 2 applications.
There are 2?
The H2 being recommended.
Mr.
Mr. Espinoza would be the replacement.
Okay.
And then Sean would serve as the alternate.
All right, so the sequence that you want to send is to Mr. Espinoza is the first seat, and Mr. Asher would be the alternate. Okay, so let's get to the first one first, because you would be the alternate if it's second. Mr. Espinoza?
Abe's not here.
He's not here? Was he here?
Probably not.
Okay.
I know him personally. I know both the applicants personally.
Perfect. So how do you want to proceed? You want to proceed on the permanent seat and then do the alternate second? Or do you want to do them both at the same time?
If you accept the recommendation, just make a motion to include both.
Okay.
And make a motion that we accept the two applicants as presented by the HB.
Second. Comments from the audience? No? I think you might be able to sit this one out.
Thank you.
All right, motion, move second, zone 4.
Yes.
Zone 3. Zone 2.
Yes.
Zone 1. I should say no, right? No, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your willingness to serve on board.
Thank you again.
And you're gonna get another Delta firefighter.
Okay, moving down to the waiver, finally. City Bureau is done. The Master James Center is in need of a major repair to the main building. Meeting can no longer be held there. The super seniors are enlisted to support the city to utilize Melissa Park recreation room for their weekly meetings. The recommendation and motion would be to approve the super seniors group to utilize Melissa Park facilities for weekly meetings. The motion to approve this motion of the rental fee would be to waive.
I have some questions.
Yes.
If you don't mind. I'm wondering if there's a length of time, is this indefinitely, and then also, is it agreeable with everyone that if we move forward, that if a party wants to book the venue for profit, that we give advance notice to the group in order to move their meeting?
So your meetings are only once a week on for about 2 or 3 hours?
Between 10 and 1.
From 10 to 1.
Yes.
10 to 1, so about 4 hours.
Every Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Would you please come up?
My name is Brenda Cusack, and I'm the director of Master James Center at 360 South Church Street here in Lexington. In answer to your question, the super seniors meet approximately 4 hours from 10 to 1 on Wednesdays. And I'm sure that with sufficient notice, we can adjust, either move our meeting or not hold it on the week that the facilities engage with sufficient notice.
Okay. And is this for the foreseeable future, or is there, do you have like an idea of a timeline, or?
No, I don't. You're talking above my pay grade. The people, the decision makers and the people who will be dealing with what goes forward with Master James, that is not me.
Okay.
I just direct the program.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, we're hoping that the issues come out positively. We'll have to wait and see. It's in God's hands.
It truly is. And it's unique you say that because the board that governs it are preachers.
You had to go there. Okay,
what's the historical rentals on the building? Is it mainly evenings?
90% of it is city, or in the evening.
Yeah, I'd have to
Especially,
check. I don't know how often that building.
Especially this is a Wednesday, so it's not like it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't-
weekends for like picnic events.
They don't ever rent during the week, it's usually the weekends, and that time of day would be no bother to anybody.
That's what I assumed, but I just, you know, doing my due diligence.
No, you're right, but most of it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I've never actually seen any during the week at that particular time, so I don't think it'd be a problem at all.
And super seniors have been a staple of our community for decades. And unforeseeable circumstances between the hurricane, damage to the property, insurance not wanting to be able to pick up the damages or the claims, then they have been moved by their board, not the senior citizens. Their board has made a decision that they don't want to move. So, you know, where we are for them, they're our neighbors, the organization heads, someplace unknown. So this is the best that we can do for our neighbors, and it's really a small ask considering the contribution that they're giving. Although we are giving city time, city locations, and that's our responsibility to make sure that we do it in decent and honored, like I said. So, that being said,
Ray, I say something.
hold on, Ms. Cody, we almost about to vote on it. We're about to give it to you.
Oh, well, the only thing I want to say, we're not from out of town. We were born and raised right out here in Lake County. And all the ones that you see in here tonight, Hope built that place down there. It wouldn't be a place if we didn't have, we started out a long time ago, all of us just work. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
I don't want y'all to think that we coming from out of town.
No.
We live out here. I've been out here for 86 years.
That wasn't
86.
I think that outstanding cook that you had down there cooking the Thursday meals, she's from out of town.
Yeah, she's the only one. 2 of them from out of town.
Yes, Ms. Cook, we were just amplifying what Ms. Cusack was saying.
Yeah,
This is your
I'm
group.
with Ms. Cusack. Whatever she say, I'm with her.
We are all on the same page.
That's right.
Mayor, I'm ready for a motion.
Mason for a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we waive the rental fee for Melissa Park during the time requested by the Super Seniors Group.
Second. Motion moved in second. Any discussion?
I just would like to say that, just based on the fact that we went out and Hopkins Hall for nonprofits, I think obviously allowing them to move in and use this building for free, and the fact that they've been here, they're not from out of town, is great. But it's done for all nonprofit groups, that's what I've been told, and so it automatically should be a yes for you guys.
Got some motion and vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion, all in favor? Ayes have it. So moved. You have your weekly meeting.
Thank you.
It's already voted on.
I don't care.
Cookie, you're out of order, and have the chief take you out here.
Why don't, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break.
I just gotta say one thing, Vernon.
You can go ahead and say it.
I'm a commissioner for
Go ahead and bring it up.
Let me tell you, every one of them ladies did work in this town over the years, and you can believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. 5-minute break.
Thank you.
I saw the name on here, I saw and he said to me, no, I just got shaken, and I saw the name on
The concern, where it was going, it was keep going, and that's the issue. It was
I'm sure it was.
He had that in that court, breakfast, face whatever they
No, they feel a lot better, but they're
What's wrong, my
It was one of those things they take to the show.
Okay.
You know,
Tim's from Massachusetts. It's on Massachusetts on the back. You can't find it. Even with the GPS, you can't find it. Yeah, it's under, I can't find it. I'm trying. Where you at? It's off. I don't know nothing about that. I hate to say it, but I know it's all outside. We have so many, we have a few meters left down, and that's one of them, and I think it's covered in the okay. Maybe you can.
Driver in the passenger.
Okay. Okay.
And at home, back between. And so they had four captain's chairs in the back.
Just think, I'll call you. Okay, yeah, I'll call you. Yeah, maybe that's part. That's only can't. Sparkle, you know.
Yeah, no, I'll call Alan, we'll jump
Yeah, Alan called me.
He's not here.
I'm gonna say what?
It was a sticker with all improvements, like.
All right, we are
And there's something like. And I was so close to buying it. And actually, I'm glad I did. You know, now that band's about as big as I want to drive. And this thing is longer, it's higher. Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, it works.
We're about to go into the quasi hearing.
Oh, wait, that's right, I forgot.
We're all in and quasi judicial hearing, has anyone had any ex parte communication with any of the items on this list?
Yes.
Yes?
I had a long talk with myself here.
Both of you, huh? All right.
Talking to yourself.
Because the engine is on.
This is
But you have this thing anyway.
Yeah. Well, he was debating whether or not he was for it or against it.
Okay.
Did you bribe yourself?
So
I'd like to pull A.
Pull A? Okay. Pull A, and so we got B and C.
You have to vote on B and C collectively.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept, B and C on the quality judicial.
Okay.
He pulled it because he can't vote on it, it's his application.
Any comments? No? Zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3?
You had a motion to give us.
Did we second it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Charlene and Roger.
I second.
Okay.
Putting them all together, yes.
Yes. So we're down to 3, zone 3?
I said yes.
Yes, zone 4?
Yes.
All in favor, yes, it so passes. Now go backwards to
The A.
A.
Yes.
109 Casadega Road, new sign.
Yes.
Okay.
Roger just has to abstain, that's all.
Yes.
Roger's on you.
Well, I'd like to talk about
I
that.
can't vote on something, I gotta make a motion.
So I was supposed to.
Yeah, I'm the one who filled the application for the American Legion, so I cannot vote on it. I already submitted my paperwork for abstaining.
Perfect.
I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Any comments? Okay.
Yes.
All in favor, yes, and I vote yes as well, except for one abstaining. Yeah.
Yeah, I said
Did we
yes
vote?
twice.
Oh, you see it?
I say yes again.
Yes.
Just to be on the same side. Just to be on the same side.
Not Chicago. Okay. All right, so we're going past that. Now we are down to the commission reports, just that quick. Zone 1.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Zone 2.
I got 3 items. One of them, the American Legion, a couple of years ago at the National Convention, passed a resolution that on the last Saturday of April, the post should go out and do something for the community. So we are having an American Legion Family Day on April 26th from noon to 6 p.m., in which we will be cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, we have cornhole games and a bounce house, and those who participate in our bingo will have bingo between 1 and 3:30 p.m. And it'll be at our facilities at 109 Casadega Road. And no, the new sign will not be done by then.
Is that also the
It's also the day of the weekend of the
auto show?
garage sale, and it's also the auto show.
You bring it lots of food. Lot going on.
For the veterans, Volusia County has quarterly invited all of us to the Veterans Memorial Plaza grand opening, 9 a.m. April 25th at 125 East Orange Avenue, Daytona Beach. It's it's the grand opening of the Volusia County Veteran Memorial Plaza, honoring all those who gave. It will include music, refreshments, speeches from veterans and guests, and parking will be at the Henderson Judicial Center. And the veterans, if you want to go and see that, it'll be available. And my last one. I had the opportunity on March 24th, 25th, and 26th to go to Tallahassee to talk to our legislators. It was a very interesting talk. One of them lasted about 10 seconds because it was between him going from a meeting and catching an elevator to go to another meeting. So it wasn't very informative on that one. But the other ones all echoed pretty much the same thing. And some of these statements you may remember from past commission meetings, from previous commissioners and stuff. And they says if the cities would start doing their own business and would quit using excuses like we can't do that because it'll make a burden on the next commissioners, which is BS. We do everything that makes a burden on the next commissioners. Let's see, what was some of the other ones that were used? I better wrote them down. Anyway, out of about the 6 of them that they gave, 4 of them I have heard at these commission meetings. And what the Tallahassee wants us to do, if they want us to have local control, they want us to start taking control. And one of the other things was, well, let's don't do anything until the state mandates us to do it. They said, well, you want the state to mandate it? That is why we've got that Live Local Act. It's because we didn't do anything for it. The state mandated it. That is why there's even stricter requirements coming out of this session for it. That is why the vote is going to go before the citizens. They haven't voted on it yet, but they told us the vote will be there for the citizens to either vote yes to keep property taxes or do away with property taxes. And guess which way that's going to go. And Governor DeSantis plans on putting in some assistance between now and the time the citizens vote on it for the property taxes by reducing all property taxes by another $1,000. So that's going to hit a lot of the city's pocketbooks very hard. And a lot of the question was, well, where's the makeup money coming from? Well, they're talking about reducing the sales tax, so they're not going to raise the sales tax. And they said the cities are going to have to start thinking of ways of making their own money. So, most of us talked about, I guess, our assessment fees program is going to be a lot larger, and a lot of them says, yeah. So, and to top it all off, they're trying to pass it statewide to do away with business taxes. So the businesses will no longer have to register with the cities anymore. So we said, well, that's going to kind of eliminate the regulatory effect of the cities on the businesses, and this is not our problem. It's the city's problem. So since the cities have sat back on their hunches and not done nothing and allowed the state to whittle away at home rule, guess what they're doing? They're giving you home rule, and it's going to be a pain to go through because you're going to have to do, we are going to have to do an awful lot of stuff to be able to make up the difference of what's coming out of this legislative session. Now, if you really want to see what is going on some of these, you can watch on WDSC/ED or on the Florida channel, and And you can watch them debating in their committees, and then you can watch the House and the Senate floor sessions, and they're debating, and believe me, they are passing a lot of stuff. You know, it's not stuff that's helping the cities. We're going to have to knuckle down. There's one that they're talking about that's going to be mandated that we have to put in an ADU ordinance that meets their guidelines by the end of September of this year.
What ordinance?
An ADU, accessory dwelling unit ordinance that meets their guidelines. They said the cities can still require setbacks, but the ADU cannot be rented out for a shorter term frame than 30 days. There's like 4 requirements on it, and I don't have the list in front of me, but one of them was they didn't want to create short-term rentals, so they said that they'd have to be rented out for no less than 30 days. Property stat, they would still get their homestead exemption, even though it's a separate unit from the house. It's still on the property. And there's a couple other guidelines. But there's going to be a lot of changes coming out, and most of them go into effect July 1st. CRAs that we don't get involved with, but a lot of other cities are involved with. You cannot create any new CRAs after July 1st of this year, and all CRAs must be completed by June of 44 or 46. And it's when they sunset, when you're not allowed to have them anymore. So, I mean, all of our fundraising capabilities are being taken away, and we're going to have to come up with new ways of raising funds. There's also something to do with enterprise funds, which deals with our water supply. I didn't quite catch what they were talking about on that, but
that was dealing more with communities. It's not only water, it's more of the abuses in the communities that have electrical.
Yeah.
Because they're taking the profits, you know, out of the fund, and they're using it to buy down their and they're going to be restricting the amount of money that can be used out of those funds to offset your taxes.
well, they were tying into all the enterprise funds, not just the electric, but the electric was the reason why they were doing it.
But most, you'll find most don't use water and sewer because they have to pay for themselves.
Right.
We don't take any profit off of that and roll it over to the general fund. Electric is the biggest one that does that.
So, out of this session, there's going to be a lot of changes coming.
Roger, let me add on that too, is Florida is also stored in its firm of Doge.
Oh, yeah. Heavy into
Every
that.
city in the state of Florida got an email about 2 weeks ago with a list of questions, and the deadline was to respond, you know, on those questions back to Tallahassee. They were kind of generic. None of them affected us right now in reference because they were reporting your financial stuff, but get ready. It's the start of them starting, I think, to get down to much more micro level management of starting dictating your policies and your money on their opinion on whether they think that's appropriate or not.
Well, I know today they shut down, they passed a resolution to do away with the Migrant Workers Protection Act, which protected the migrant working class people and making sure that the person that hired them provided health care and everything else. Well, they shot down that act. And that's tied in with that ICE thing. So
ICE is pretty
And that's why they're lowering the age on working kids, so that you can use your kids then to fill out the labor and missing
That ICE thing, if the city pushed back at all, and they were deemed sanctuary city, and they're going to take state funds away and remove elected officials.
if you push back, yeah, you could get fined and everything else.
And it wasn't, I read it for Holly Hill. It's not, there were questions. You know, I think it's, you know, I don't have a problem supporting federal government, that's not an issue. But it wasn't written well. And there were some questions, and, oh, no, we can't ask questions. You know, like, the city shall immediately transfer to the nearest detention facility. Where's that? Maybe we got transferred to Miami? You know, I mean, just a basic question.
I think it's the branch jail.
They're going, they're gonna
Jail
build
or not,
ice
they're
at
working
every branch jail, they're gonna build
Right.
a facility. So, there was just, but I just didn't like the state's response to say, you can't ask a question where you're deemed sanctuary.
Right.
That's wrong. You know?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I mean, I support the concept. I think we should be helping all levels of government to enforce law. But to sit there and say, you gotta just accept our agreement with no questions, I don't care for that.
You did? Yep, that's it.
Thanks for the positive.
See, it really brought the room down, didn't it?
I can't quite all of a sudden.
For zone 3, this past month, I attended another flood and stormwater committee meeting. Had a long talk with Tammy Dewey and one of the compliance officers, Jim Cannon. It's amazing what they know, what's coming down the pipe. They're more than willing to work with the citizens and the commissioners as well as staff. The subcommittee is trying to work together, 16 cities together within Volusia County. I think it's a great thing. I hope that we can move forward and accomplish something. I'm going to switch gears now, but I do want to say one thing about Doge. I don't think Doge is wanting to micromanage. I think what they're wanting to do is to make sure that administration, government itself is protecting the citizens. And that's the reason for all the questions. One thing I do want to talk about, which kind of falls into the conversation that Roger just had about the cities are going to have to start doing more things. Got me thinking about workshops. We haven't had any workshops to speak of. It's very difficult to make any decisions, right or wrong. In fact, you can't make a decision if we don't have workshops where the commissioners know what's on the table, can discuss it reasonably as adults, and be concerned for our zones. I would like to know, this is what I remember as workshops that we've had. We had 2 budget workshops. We had a special workshop that was over the Foreign Mills issue. We had another budget workshop that was due to the violation of our millage rate. I believe in September, and I think that it was Commissioner Eckert who, and this isn't the only request to have a workshop. Commissioner Rutledge has requested them, I've requested them, but we never have them. But I remember distinctly that September timeframe that Commissioner Eckert, we were discussing the Ivy Pond, stormwater versus user fee. Mr. Simpson had a lot to say about it, was explaining the difference between user fees and stormwater fees versus taxes. Well, we got nowhere. So Roger requested a workshop. We haven't had that yet, and budget time is coming up again. What are we gonna do? We need to start working together, planning, because especially if the state's gonna throw it back on the cities, we better have a plan on what we're gonna do. I don't know why, if I request a workshop or anybody requests a workshop on this commission, that we don't get it, because in fact, I think we are the policymakers here.
Can you
The next thing,
provide a list of workshops that were requested, because you all approved them?
did we, and Did we not just, I just mentioned that in
But
September.
did you approve it?
Yes, we approved it.
I
Votes
don't
were
recall
taken
that.
on
I
it.
don't recall that.
Well, go back and look at the videos, they're there.
No, we had 9 workshops when I got here, and we didn't do a damn thing after those 9 workshops.
Okay. We still need to have workshops.
Well, if hopefully you guys do something in them, because they're a waste of time when we're sitting here and we get no direction.
I guess maybe the citizens ought to fire all of us commissioners and get in someone new. I don't know.
Do that
Have a
every
pitch that, yeah, I know. I know that workshops have been requested, they've been voted on, and we've not had them.
I'd like a list of that then so that we can, because I have no list of workshops.
Go back and look at the videos like I do. I'm not doing your job.
Yeah, I'm not doing yours.
Well, let us just let her finish with her statement so we can move on.
Yeah, that kind of brings me up to this point, then I'll be finished. Tonight, it was mentioned that a commissioner stopped the pumping. A commissioner sitting here tonight stopped the pumping. The commissioner has a name, and that is Commissioner Donato. I am all about transparency. I have no problems.
Did you ever report it to this group? Did you ever report it to when that lady spoke up in a meeting that you stopped her pond being pumped? No, you didn't.
I didn't have to report it to her. I reported it to you, and you reported it to Ricky. And then y'all left the pumps out there. I'm speaking, Jim.
You know what, Williams? You got your 90 days. You got your 90 days. So you have time now to, because I'm not dealing with this anymore. This is the most unprofessional that I have ever worked with in 25 years. You have 90 days. This will give you an opportunity to find someone and get you through that process. I'm done with this.
I'm speaking. It's my time to speak.
Just kidding, Susan.
It's my time to speak.
Getting everything.
No, I'm making statements, and then I get cut in. But, okay, so we want to engage. No, I think that statement's been made about other commissioners in other cities, like Brenda Brasher, unprofessional. I'm here to do a job. I'm asking for workshops. They've been voted on, and then I have to get an argument about it. There's something wrong with this picture.
Well, I'm just gonna respond to what you're saying. If a motion was made to have a workshop and no workshop was had, I wasn't here for that.
You were here for that.
I have not had a motion
I'll bring up,
for a
I will go
workshop.
back, I will go back.
I've heard comments, what generally happens is that we ought to have a workshop. We ought to have a workshop. Well, we ought to have a workshop and making a motion to have a workshop, having that motion second, and then voted on, and has that happened?
Yes, it has.
We've had a
I'll go
number
back
of
and get the
workshops voted
recordings.
on and seconded that we haven't had.
I'm sorry, what you said, Roger?
Anyway, you were ahead.
I didn't hear what he said. But at any rate, I am transparent. I report back what I do, and I'm gonna do my job. And I think it, puts people in a position when you say there is a commissioner. They're wanting to know who that commissioner is. Let's tell them. I'm all for it.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Charlene, Commissioner. Bob.
I can't think she's done. I'm speechless. You're not really leaving, are you leaving? Are you putting in your 90 days?
Yeah, you have to enjoy what you do.
Things do come across as accusatory. That is a fact. And I get what you're saying.
No, that's nice.
So, I really hate that. But I understand. And I'm literally, I'm Usually speechless. I'm pretty speechless right now.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
With all due respect to everybody that's here, including the commission, I think that we are making a terrible mistake if we let gentlemen. Well, I'm not talking about a relation, I'm just talking about the work that he has done and continues to do for the city, and how he has brought the whole team that works within the city administration, public works, and the police department together. We are one unit, and we work together for the good of the city, and it's because of Jim Mason.
And
so whatever we need to do to make sure that this relationship is repaired, then we need to do it. And that's on both sides.
Mind if I say something? Please. I'm going to second that. And I have been the chief of police here for 4 years. I have been with the city for 27, and I have seen a handful of people try to tear the city down. And I have seen those people get defended. I'm not going to sit here and name names, but it is a cancer, and it is eating the city alive. And if this doesn't show right now what cancer is foaming in this city, I don't know what else is. And anybody who turns a blind eye to that is a fool. Let this man do his job. Leave him alone. Quit micromanaging him. It's not going anywhere.
I hope you're not accusing
I'm not
me of
accusing you of anything,
micromanaging.
but you don't
Because
know
we
why
barely
Jim said what he
speak.
said.
I get no.
So I'm just telling you, the staff, I have seen, I'm not going to sit here and name names, but I have seen questions staff. Staff is doing their job.
I can never pull the phone record on staff, Brandon.
But you asked for a lot of public records requests. How many have we asked for? How many public records requests have been asked? How many hours of taxpayer time for public records requests?
And I'm the commissioner.
I'm talking, please. Just let me finish what I'm saying. I have seen emails that have accused me of being discriminatory towards somebody. I've been in this city 20 years. You find me anybody else in this room, much less this city, that can say one negative thing about me.
I don't know who you're talking about.
One individual.
I don't know who you're talking about.
You do know who we're talking about. This is, you know exactly what we're talking about. Once again, I'm not going to name any names. Don't let that man leave. If anybody needs to leave, it needs to be somebody else. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
I'm not looking up here too.
Please do.
I came back because you got rid of the other. That man you hired in there, that has been the most cohesive and the most transparent person I've ever worked for. He taught me budgets, he's taught me everything. He's bringing you in the right direction. He knows his business, he knows his job. Personal stuff aside, the man knows his job. I've worked for, other than I think I counted 8 administrators, 8 mayors, I don't know how many commissioners over my almost 30 years here. He's been the best I've ever worked for. Because he is transparent. And he's by the book. Believe me, you're making a bad mistake if he goes, and I'm so sad to see him go because what are we going to get next? And we work, we as staff work as a team. He's our team leader. You don't know how much he does. He's just supportive everywhere. It's just sad. I mean, I don't, we're going to lose a valuable person here. The most valuable person you've ever had in that seat sitting there. That didn't have an agenda. That's all I want to say.
I was not trying to speak now. No. No, those were department heads. No, I'm speaking now. I've been on this commission. I've spent at least almost 19 years between commissions and boards, and every single board we've had. I've worked with every single city administrator we've had. I've worked with some of the worst and some of the best. I have seen this city torn apart by petty innuendo. I've seen this city torn asunder by email quips and Facebook posts and the name of it. I sat in the audience when the commission fired, or not fired, but terminated the contract with Lee Evans in the middle of a budget hearing. I mean, before we're doing our budgets. If you don't do anything else, at least try to be strategic about what you do that's for the benefit of the city and not for some personal gain that someone might get satisfaction out of. I sit here a lot and I listen, and I don't speak up. I don't get on the Facebook pages. I don't do those things. But to have seen this city come from where we were, we brought back Ricky, who had basically put the public works, whatever your likes or dislikes were, the public works was working when Ricky was here. Whatever the atmosphere that caused him to just walk away, had a great expense to his family, but decided that this wasn't worth it at the time, to only to have the city rehire him. I remember it was around the 4th of July, and once they decided that he would come back before the 4th so that he could get the park back, because it was flooded out there. Citizens rode around in their golf carts picking up the debris after the 4th of July. People see this city for what it's worth. People see this city for the pettiness that happens up here. Just like I'm sitting next to a city commissioner who's gonna basically take the gavel out of my hand. We're better than this. We're better than this. The team aspect. We have Roxanne that came because the former deputy clerk basically walked away from this city because of the harassment that she was going through. We got her replaced. Not to say that she didn't have to have some harassment and disrespect, but she's still here. We have managed to put this city back on track, despite the differences of opinions. And one of the things that makes the city commission, if you haven't been on the commission before and haven't known what it takes to be a unified body, then this is where you will learn. And the best way to learn what a unified body is about is to see that body disassemble itself. And then the citizens are going to be who you think are your friends. They're the ones that's going to be putting you under the microscope. For what? Grandstanding? To say that I did this? We don't. We work as a unit, whether you like the parts of the unit or not. Simplest form that I can give this, I coached track for many years, and one of the things that I coached in terms of a relay is that you have different runners in a relay. Nobody, the fastest person may not be the first person to start. The person that has the best attitude or aptitude to catch up. So you need all 4 people working together. Nobody brings the same strength to the team. The fact that we all have basic experiences, knowledges, information, and opinions. And some of us